Good afternoon. I'm Rocío Álvarez Osorio, a lawyer specialized in advising startups from Baker Tilly Law Firm. Welcome to the Cycle of Entrepreneurs, a 10-session program that addresses all aspects of entrepreneurship. I take this opportunity to extend a cordial greeting to all those who are joining for the first time, and especially to those who are seeing the cycle from different parts of the world. As you know, the Cycle for Entrepreneurs is an initiative promoted by EAE Emprende, a project of the school that offers 5 large areas of services to students and alumni in training and knowledge, professional development, networking, benefits, and discounts. Lean Startup, Learn Faster Than Anyone Else, is the 5th model of the cycle and will focus on the creation of the minimum volume product and the importance of the metrics. To talk about this topic, we have the presence of Álvaro Cuesta. Welcome.
Thank you.
Álvaro is the co-founder of Sonar Ventures, the first Spanish startup producer. It's a company that is dedicated to advise a company and launch new projects of proven success and the international field. Álvaro is also a consultant and expositor in different companies and institutions in topics of digital strategy and entrepreneurship. Also, he was president of the Young Entrepreneurs Association of Madrid and the Young Council same. Before giving the word to Álvaro, I invite you to participate in this session and ask your question through Twitter using the hashtag to appears on your screen. Again, welcome Álvaro.
Thank you very
please
much
start.
again. And thank you to all of you who are behind the screens all over the world. And we apologize for all the technical issues, and I mean it was a bit of a mess at the beginning, so I apologize in name of on behalf of my team, the whole team of EAE. So anyway, this is I think it's the 5th class of this itinerary on how to create, build, or launch successful startups. And today we're going to focus on lean startup. And before getting deep into it, I'd like to summarize basically what we've seen so far very briefly, just so that if you've been following this for the past sessions, at least you get some refresh. And if you're new to this class, welcome. And it's also good to have some perspective on why we're talking today about lean startup. As I mentioned, this is a course on how to build successful startups. Now, successful startups is like, I think it's could be sound as an overpromise because there's such amount of risk and uncertainty, and entrepreneurship in general is so complex that I think that we need to define in terms of success. And if we consider success, at least minimizing the chances of failure. And of course, having fun in the meantime. And by having fun, I'm saying not about partying. I'm saying enjoying, feeling passionate, feeling fulfilled about what we're doing. And then maximizing the outcome, which means either selling our company, having a lifestyle business that just gives us some money and we do what we love, or whatever outcome we have, even failure. It's a success by itself if we, at least we do it for the right purpose, with the right methodology, and with the right people. And that's my whole perspective. Then the outcome we'll see, maybe it will go well, but if it doesn't, it takes 3.8 times to have a successful project on average. So some people do it the first one, some people make it the 5th. Even, this drink called 7-Up. Well, actually 7-Up is the name that the inventor gave to this drink because it was the 7th time he tried, and he stood up again, and it was like his last and 7th attempt. So this is like the whole perspective of the course. And in order to help you to do that, I'm just going to expose my experience and whatever knowledge I can share with you. With this perspective, we've seen how companies should be started from something that is not just the what, like the idea itself or the product, but from the why, from the purpose, from whatever motivation that is within us and is actually the real motivation or the real cause for us to become entrepreneurs in the first place. And this might seem like a very naive approach or like too emotional approach from a business school perspective, but let me tell you, from a scientific point of view, it really lowers your chances of failure if you do things for the right purpose. And for that, I recommend you a great book that I just finished a few weeks ago. It was called Grit, Grit, which is a scientific essay about how grit, which means perseverance with passion, with purpose, it increases in an enormous amount of chances your success. So, and by that, grit is defined as dedicated practice with the right purpose. And that, finally has, become part of the actual business field, not just like the psychological field or even the self-help or positive psychology field. So having said that, and having clear that we should start our companies from the why, from the purpose, because that will keep us the motivation and the persistence in the long run, then we should go with the how. The how is not just the idea once again, but the methodologies and how we are going to do whatever we want to do. And whatever we want to do is not, once again, the problem we want to solve or the solution we just found, or even the high level purpose that we have. It's also, to be aware of our limitations, our potential, what things that, we do better than others, and others, and the traits that we want to also to develop as entrepreneurs. With that in mind, I think is we have the right assets to start our trip. Now, then we go and say, okay, but we're going to start a trip, but we cannot do it by ourselves. It would be pointless. It would be even arrogant to pretend that you will succeed by yourselves. So we've discussed about the team. We've seen the different archetypes and the different let's say the different types of personality that complement each other, and that should start from analyzing ourselves, doing a self-discovery process, and see our strengths and our weaknesses. Even there are some methodologies that I recommend you as well. I think without feeling that you're doing a cosmopolitan test about your personality, I think there are some scientific and rigorous methodologies that will help you to know and identify who you are and who you should work best with. For example, the MBTI, which is one questionnaire of personality that will help you to develop your psychological traits. It will be of tremendous help in order to know who you are in terms of, oversimplified, but at least the main traits, and what are the type of people that you need to work with, and your potential threats as entrepreneurs because of your own personality. Okay, for example, I'm considered the ENLP, which they call the visionary. I'm not calling myself so. I'm just saying this is the archetype. But I might be I might have a lot of vision to create companies, but I may not be great at execution. So if I pretend to start a company builder like I've done, and I don't surround myself with people that are very keen into or very strong on execution, my business will be a failure. And we haven't talked about lean startup yet. So just consider that. Huh? Why, the purpose, the how, but also the who, the people that we want to start with. And once we have clear that, if we find people that share our purpose, that complement our traits and our personality and share our values, which also will lower the chances of failure, because that's also the main reason of failure, the wrong partners. I'm sure you as a lawyer have experienced that, many types of legal cases where you've seen conflicts between partners, and that's the beginning of the end of the company, actually, right?
Yes, for the reason I try to recommend them a figure of a good coach.
Indeed.
And this coach, I think that it has to have experience in the startups, and I think that it's very important that they or he goes with the team and know the different personalities, no?
Absolutely.
Try to understand or try to send a message to the entrepreneurs that what happened with their egos.
Absolutely.
No, and how to manage.
Absolutely. I'm glad you
the
said so.
egos.
I'm glad you said so because I always said, you know, when you were doing the introduction, you mentioned that I was the president of the Young Entrepreneurs Association. And, you know, I had like a 3-second, you know, nostalgic moment because it was my stage as a politician per se. And I always say that, you know, that stage in my life, you know, representing more than 18,000 entrepreneurs in Spain and in Europe and all that, led me the ability to learn what I call the master and ego management. You know, there's some master in business administration. Well, I've done a master in ego management. It's all about the egos. It's all about how you manage them and about your own ego, you know, to start with. And I think that it's a good point that you brought it up because it's once again it's a big important issue in terms of the team. You know, and your ego also affects. If you find people that are yourself, you will tend to compete. If you find people that will make things work better and you don't compete because you're just having clear the different fields and competencies that you have, well, then it's all set. You know, you don't have to, you know, reason to fight.
I remember a meeting in my office. And it was two entrepreneurs that they were fighting because one of them thought that the other didn't work enough and all the things. And suddenly, what's very surreal, and suddenly I say, I'm going to give you, how do you say chupetes in English?
Oh, yeah, like, I forgot the name. Yeah, like a pacifier.
Pacifier, because was unreal, and I say, my God, so they are fighting, and I say, my God.
Yeah, but that's what happens most of the time at the highest level. I mean, if you saw the rivalry between Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, or you know, Steve Jobs and his CEO, you know, former CEO, and you know, that happens at all levels of hierarchy. It's not just you know, like a starting point, but normally, once again, keep your ego in mind. So those things are very important. And I'm sorry to extend on those topics. And I know it's not the main focus of this conference. So if you just downloaded this or are visioning this for the wrong purpose, I apologize. But I think it's, once again, my goal is not to teach you lean startup. My goal is to help you become better entrepreneurs. So I want to state that. And then when we have the purpose, the vision, the team, and everything, then we need to know that there are certain methodologies that will help us along the way to lower our risk, and that means that, you know, we cannot play by intuition. Intuition is good sometimes. It's all about gathering information and then listening to your own gut, and so the more information you get and the more you trust your gut, the better. But once again, the more information you get. So the methodologies that we're actually seeing and we're going to see today also are helping us to gather that information so that we can have and make both rational and irrational decisions, but at least with the right information. So those methodologies are focused on two fields. Basically, the customer development approach that we've seen in the previous session, and the lean startup approach. We've seen some you know, issues about lean startup in the previous classes when we were discussing about the introduction and the whole, I mean, the general aspects of the class. But we're going to focus today on those. We've seen on the customer discovery and customer development field how important it was to start the company not from the product, but also from the problem that you want to solve. Then listen to the customer and develop the solution with the customer. And that was very important. We talk about getting out of the building as one of the main principles, talking to people, making interviews, how to do the right interview, how to design the right personas that we were seeing on, you know, as if we were script writers. And, you know, you were with me at that session. So we we should draw and define and design those archetypes in order to design with that person or people specific in mind. Okay, so once we do that, then we will get close to what the Lean Startup methodology calls the product market fit. And it's actually one of the, to me, is like the holy grail of becoming an entrepreneur or creating a startup. Finding that product market fit that we are actually going to see in next sessions, along the way. Basically, product market fit is the second stage of the, let's say, the whole process of entrepreneurship. First, you are in the discovery session. You are in the problem solution fit. You're trying to make sure that your problem that you thought you found, it was a real problem. It was not just in your mind and you thought it was an incredible problem, but in the end no one cared. So you validated the problem, and then you validated a solution, and then you validated a product, a problem solution fit, which means that the problem and the solution actually have certain fit, and it solves the real problem. But the next stage is the product market fit, which means your solution is actually fitting with the market, and that's, I call that like a marriage between your product and your market, and when that happens, that's where the magic happens. Is like, I like to tell my students that it's like being in love, because they say, but how do I know when I am when I reach this stage of product market fit? Well, it's like being in love. You only know it when you are, otherwise you cannot describe it. It's just a feeling that you get clients every day, much quicker than you expected. People are actually demanding your product and services without making, a lot of effort or creating friction when you try to go for it, and basically a certain amount of idea of let's say indicators that tell us that we are in that stage. So the other side of the coin is Lean Startup, and Lean Startup it was a methodology developed by Eric Ries that we've also discussed before, and basically comes from the lean management approach from the industrial production methodologies, which was basically concerned with the idea of with the objective of lowering the resources that were needed in order to develop a product or to produce a product. Lean means with no waste. So Lean Startup is basically creating startups with zero waste. Okay, so today we will get deeper into not just Lean Startup, but the main topics of it: the MVP, the minimum viable product, the Lean Canvas as part of it, as a way to not just understand the product, but understand the business model. Because normally people they think that Lean Startup is about building products fast and agile and easy and quick and with no money. But in the end, it's not about creating the right product. It's about creating the right business model. First of all, because the business model is what will give you the money, not the product. And second, because Lean Startup considers the product per se the whole business model itself, not just the actual code or features or functionalities that you might have. I take this opportunity to say, do they have the hashtag so they can because I think it was AI conference,
Yeah.
EAE conference.
Yeah.
Okay, just in case you want to make any questions so far, you're more than welcome. I will be more than happy to answer them. EAE conference, okay? So I will be paying attention and whatever.
Yes, I will be able to.
Great. So basically, the business model, it's actually one of the main reasons why this methodology started, because before Lean Startup, most companies were being built by developing the product and basically having an immediate way to make money, just put it in the market and sell it, but without paying much attention to who is going to pay, which customer segment, which channels, and many other aspects. Now there are tools that you might know as the business model canvas that you know very well because you use it at your law firm, right? But we will see today the lean canvas. Then we will see another aspect of lean startup that is called growth engines. Growth engines are basically types of business models that will help us grow. And then we will see the concept of iteration and pivot and some KPIs basically. So lean startup is a learning strategy to build a sustainable business, and this learning can be validated scientifically by running experiments that allow the entrepreneur to test the viability of their vision. Well, once again, we've seen that a few times already, and I will insist on it. We need to become scientists when we are entrepreneurs. We have to be part scientists, part creatives. So lean startup is about applying the scientific method to entrepreneurship. It's about this loop that we're going to see at this point, here. This loop that is basically called the build, measure, learn loop, okay? So you see there the different stages, and it's a continuum, it's a loop. The build is basically where we make our hypothesis. We think that, for example, let's say we have validated a problem, which let's say that this problem could be, okay, today let's use the example of waste management, recycling, okay? I have a problem as, citizen that, I'm tired of, when I throw my garbage, if I want to recycle, which I should, it's very complicated. I mean, to me, it's a hassle. It's nothing compared to whatever I do in my daily life, which everything is convenient. I do the groceries on my iPhone. I take a cab, and it's right away. And it seems from like the 19th century approach, because I need to take each and every dish. I need to do everything like separated, and to have this cognitive effort to make decisions for each thing, where should it go, and then I need to be aware of where to throw it and go out to different points to actually throw it if I want to be a good citizen, okay? Now, I see that as a problem, and let's say I validated, I talked to a few people, we had interviews, and we validated. And we have, the build is our main hypothesis, our first hypothesis. Let's say that our MVP, the first product that we want to build, is a product that will, let's say we call it, like an Uber for recycling, okay? Let's say do you think that people will want, that's your hypothesis, people will be able to pay 4 euros per week, so 16 euros per month, to have the recycling process taken care of their minds. So they will get a huge bucket, they will just throw it all in without separating anything, and someone will, they will have a sensor, and someone will be home, take the bucket every time it's about to be filled, get a new one, and take that whole thing and separate the whole thing for you and throw it to the right containers. And actually, with that information of everything you throw, they will have certain information about you that will be able to send you certain offers and certain opportunities. And in the end, you will actually end up even making money for recycling, because you can also get paid for certain wastes that you actually throw to this service. So in the end, you could have like a positive balance on that. So that would be the main hypothesis. I think people will want to pay for that. So I build that, and in order to do that, I have two options: the traditional one or the lean startup approach. Traditional one is I have this business plan, I do it for 1 year, I create a company, I'll ask for license to the municipalities to have all the sanitary permits. I develop this R&D super complex and sophisticated bucket, and I look for partners, I have raised money, and in the end I haven't even reached the customer. Okay, so that's the traditional approach. Now, the lean startup approach would be to do a smoke test. Smoke test is, before you do all that, just create a landing page. Just do an MVP. We're going to see what is an MVP, minimum viable product. Just say and you can do it with less than 100 euros. Believe me. Just visit. You have many websites that I can show you. On the next class, I will show you how to build a product and how to to do so with less than 100 euros. But you can do it in 48 hours and without actually leaving your job if you're working somewhere else. You can do that and still, in order to actually find whether you're doing, you're going the right track. So you create a logo, a name, you design a domain, you register a domain name for 9 euros per year, and you can go to godaddy.com, for example, or many others, and you say, okay, let's call it Wastify, Wastify, whatever, just first name, it just came to my mind. So you register, you do it. You don't have to actually register the .com because you don't care. First of all, it will be probably not available. So if it is available, okay, do so, but don't focus on it. Just get whatever domain name it serves your purpose. Then create a landing page. You can go to instapage.com or Lander app, LANDERAPP, Lander app, or many others. And you can build a landing page with no technical knowledge and no money. You design a logo. There are many ways to design a logo. You can go to this website called Withumf, that it's very difficult to spell, and unfortunately I cannot write here on the screen on real time. But also just go to Dafonts, DAFONTS, dafonts.com, and just do it the simplest way. Just type the name of your company and find the right font for that company. Then choose the right color that you think fits the purpose of the business, and just save it as a GPG. As stupid and as simple as that. But let me tell you, I did that with Sonar Ventures, my company, and that logo lasted for 6 years. Okay, so you can do great things. The simpler, the better. And that's cheap. You don't need to actually hire a designer at the very beginning of that stage. You just do it on the way, because every time you dedicate to something that is not actually getting the feedback from the customer, it's time that you're wasting. Okay, so you can do so. And if you want something a bit more sophisticated, just go to Fiverr.com, FIVERR.com, and it's a community of freelancers all around the world that will do things for $5. So you can get your logo done for less than 10 euros in less than 48 hours. Okay, so that's your first version of the logo, of course. So once you have that, you build a landing page and say, oh, okay, I will make a smoke test as if the company actually existed. So I say, Wastify, don't waste your life, or we take care of you wasting your life with with waste, or something like that. Playing the word with wasting your time, or with the waste. I don't know. Just thinking out loud. Okay, so forgive me if I. So basically, you have a claim. You name the main features that you think your MVP is having, which is, I just mentioned, just get a bucket that will refill. Don't waste time, or don't lose time choosing the right container. Just throw it all in one. We'll take care of the hassle, and you can get paid for the recycling and whatever. You do all that, and then you create what's called a call to action, a CTA. Call to action is a button, basically very big, after the title and the features, the advantages. Just a call to action, say, I want to subscribe for 16 euros per month, for less than $4 per week. I want to subscribe. Now, you might be thinking, what are you talking about? I mean, are you telling us to actually sell something that we don't have? Isn't that immoral? Isn't that illegal? Isn't that weird? No, actually, if you know Dropbox, the famous storage company, they did actually the same thing. They didn't want to do all the things that I was mentioning to you before, actually getting to know whether they were going on the right track. So they created this MVP as a landing page I just mentioned, did exactly the same thing that I just told you, and they just released a press note. They got a lot of attention, a lot of visits, and a lot of people, I mean thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that actually clicked on that. Now that click is the single most important event so far in your journey as an entrepreneur, because it validated something, which is that your hypothesis of the problem, the solution, and the market, they fit, and you actually made someone wanting to hire that service if it existed. And it's the only real proof that you will get as to know whether your company or your product is worth it. Whatever I just do on my interviews, surveys, whatever, it will mean almost nothing. The real validation is that click. Now, why is it called a ghost product? Because, as I said, there's no product behind. But also, of course, we will not get anybody's money without delivering. What you do is just a small trick. You click, and then you send the user to another display, another screen, and say, hey, we are sorry, we're not ready yet, okay? We haven't launched our service, but if you leave us your email here, you will be in the waiting list. Whenever, or you can even say we haven't reached your area, okay? Which is true, we haven't reached your area. So if you want, just leave us your email address and your zip code, and we will get back to you and we'll give you the first month for free. The person was willing to do it not because it was for free, it was willing to pay. So, but if you want to go the extra mile so they can give you the email without having the product yet, I think that's enough incentive to do so. Okay? So you can do that, and also we'll be applying another aspect of Lean Startup, which is before the customer, then the product. Now the customer, if let's say you get 1,000 customers that are subscribing in the same zip code, and 1,000 customers that are subscribing on different other zip codes. Now, would you start your operations on any zip code? No. I mean, of course you would start in that specific zip code that your ghost clients actually gave you. So they show you the way. You just have to listen. You just have to give them the path in order for them to to follow.
What do you say to entrepreneurs who have fear because they say, I have fear because I don't want that the client have a bad experience because my product is not is not finalized, no, it's not.
Yes, it's a good point because normally they, first-time entrepreneurs they have this fear, and the reality is that I've seen so many perfectionist entrepreneurs fail, and the most successful entrepreneurs that I know have done exactly the opposite. They started with this MVP. MVP is not a synonym to make a bad thing. You can do this landing page with this logo, with this, you can do it in a decent way. It's not the perfect way. I'm going to have dinner tonight with a good friend. He's the CEO of Spot at Home. I'm sure you know this company. It's like they find you apartments that you can actually rent from your own country. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's actually raised millions of euros on funding, has thousands of and millions of clients, and many places, many countries. And I remember when he was starting his business that he was actually he built his MVP, his minimum viable product, with a WordPress, with no technology behind, almost, with not even technology at the beginning. He just got the customers and say, I will get you an apartment and I will send you a video of the apartment, and then I will send you the link so you can actually sign the agreement. That was the MVP, because the knowledge and the learning process that you get on the way, and then you develop from this loop, that build, measure, learn approach, it will give you much more insight than just starting to a product and not launching until it's perfect. Okay, so that's like with the example of this MVP, for the Wasteify approach, we got, let's say, a lot of clients, the right zip codes to start with, and then we start, and we do it by doing what Lean Startup calls the concierge mode. The concierge mode, concierge is a person that is doing things for you, like manually, like 360 approach to every need that you have, like in a hotel. Well, the concierge approach is basically applying another principle, that is build things that don't scale, which might sound counterintuitive, but it's actually the right thing to do from, not just my point of view, because that's just one, but it's from the experts, the real experts' point of view. By that I mean that you need to build things that will give you the right feedback, information about the hypothesis that you're trying to validate at this point. Don't think way too much on the long term, because the more you think, the more tied up you will get to the long term, and you will be less flexible to make actual changes and modifications. If you analyze the programming code of Facebook, when the first 3 years, they had to start it all over again, because it was crappy, because they were doing so many things on top, because they were learning and coding fast and applying. Mark Zuckerberg used to say, if you don't feel ashamed of your product, it means that you haven't launched soon enough. So that's the kind of mentality that I'd like you to at least to think about. So let's say we had this MVP, we run the experiment, and then we had this hypothesis that people will want that. We build this product to do so, and now it's time to measure. So how do we measure? Well, with analytics. It's very important. It's free. You can install Google Analytics. It's just one input. I mean, there are many other inputs, okay? But the main is Google Analytics. If you say, okay, let's say I spent $75 on Facebook ads, targeting a campaign of families in Madrid. Let's even say out of Madrid, out of the M30, because the distribution points for recycling might be a bit more spread, and the income might be a bit higher. Okay, so you choose that, and you actually haven't spent any money yet, because those 75 euros they give it to you for free in Facebook when you do your first campaign. Same thing with Google. Okay, so you can spend your first 150 euros. I mean, you can in advertisement without spending specifically any euro. So remember, so far we haven't spent anything at all. Maybe 10 euros on the domain name and 10 euros in Fiverr and the logo. And we have an MVP, we have analytics, we have advertisement with a value of 300 euros, so we can reach thousands of people without spending a dime. And we run the experiment and we're measuring the results. So let's say that we got 1,000 visits, and let's say that only 100 people actually stayed on the website, because they didn't say, oh, what is this? This is not what I like. Well, then of course you need to build something again and start the build, measure, learn loop. But now let's say you had 1,000 visits and 100 people actually clicked on this I want to learn more. 100 to 100. Well, that's a pretty good ratio. So that means, that confirms that you actually found something. You should get dig more deep into it. Now let's say out of these 100 people, 20 people actually clicked on I want to pay just to subscribe. Well, that's incredible news, because you actually learned that for every 1,000 visits that you have, you can make 10 potential clients, which by logic will say, just doing so, if I really had the product at this point and I charge this money, I know that for every 1,000 I get these 10 clients. So I know the ratio and I know how much I would need to invest, okay, to get those. Instead of 1,000 visits, I could get 1 million visits. That depends on your investment, which of course I would not recommend you to do in the first place, to invest in marketing. You just have to do it organically, okay? The less money you spend at the beginning, the better. So,
I have
sure.
a question here. In all the process that you are explaining, I like because this is a process with a low cost. But I think about how can obtain these 100 visits that you say, no?
Okay.
Because I think that I have to invest in the SEM, no? I think so.
Yeah, SEM, search engine marketing.
So more investment. I think it has to be in
SEM.
how the people know us.
Okay.
No, because in internet there are a lot of websites and there are a lot of no.
It's not as simple, but at the same time it's not as complicated as it seems. Let me explain myself. Before going to SEM, like search engine marketing or Google AdWords, I would go to Facebook ads.
Okay.
Because Facebook ads is the best way for me to validate a business when you're trying to find a specific target.
Doesn't matter the type of business?
It's not a universal approach,
Okay.
but for the most part, my experience is that Facebook ads is a very good tool. Let's say it's a B2B company that is very focused on specific types of business. Well, then maybe LinkedIn ads is much better. Let's say that you want to build something for people that you know that will actually look for it. It's just that you have a different one, but it's better and cheaper. Well, then maybe Facebook, Google AdWords is better because you can say, imagine that people were actually looking for a company that would take care of their waste, and you would say Waste Management Madrid. Well, of course, those people are the ones that should see your advertisement. But normally this thing, at the beginning, it's not something I would focus too much because that's like demand driven. And at the beginning, what you need to know is, the good thing about Facebook ads is that you can segment your
better than Google.
Much better.
Okay.
You can choose people from Madrid, from the M30, from out of the M30. You can find male, female, 21 to 35. So many criteria that it's incredible. Really, it's really incredible. And there are so many ways to advertise. Just a promoted article. Or to the right side, although I don't like to. I've never clicked on the right side of Facebook. Or you can have Facebook advertisement, in the timeline. There's so many ways, but I would just try both because they give you actually for free the AdWords and the Facebook ads. So I would not care too much. So that's like the approach on building the MVP, measuring the results, and then learn about it. Learn about whether that data was, it was good data to confirm your hypothesis or bad data. And then once you learn and say, okay, I've done this and it didn't work, well, then you need to propose a new hypothesis. Or I've done this and it worked, but I want to see how it could work better. Well, then you start doing A/B testing. A/B testing means that imagine you have this landing page that I told you that you can use Lander app or Insta page as many other examples. Insta page gives you the ability to run automatic A/B testings, which means, let's say that you don't know whether your customer segment is from inside Madrid or outside Madrid. Well, then you run two different group ads on Facebook and run the experiment. You first build the experiment, you measure the experiment, and you make conclusions. You take conclusions out of it and say, oh, it's actually people from inside the M30. So then let's focus my publicity here. Now, male or female? So let's run 2. And with the conclusions, you learn, and then you start doing different experiment. Oh, it's okay, it's females. Okay, they're the decision makers. Great. Now, is it females with families or females that live just with couples? Well, then you run again. And then you say, but I'm not sure if people will actually want to pay for it or if they expect to be paid, because recycling is something that, no one is going to punish you if you don't do it in some places. I mean, there are many others where you are punished. I mean, like you have penalties or sanctions. And you just don't know how to do it with an experiment with Facebook ads. What you need to do is to create 2 landing pages differently. Let's say you run a campaign of Wasteify, and you focus that campaign on women inside the city, 30 to let's say 25 to 45, to say something, because they might be more aware of recycling and sustainability. And I would even focus on the lower range. The more millennials they are, the more aware of this environmental approach they are. I mean, I'm not saying it is the statistics. I'm not judging. So anyway, we run this experiment and we say, okay, but I want that for every 10 visitors, 5 will go to one landing page and 5 will go to the other automatically. I will not do anything. I will just build the 2 landing pages and I say, I create an A/B test. And on one landing page, I say that is €4 per week. And on the other, I just say it's for free, but I don't give you money for your waste. So I'm not clear. I'm not sure how the business model will be. So I need to test that hypothesis. So I build that, I measure, I learn from the conclusions, and then I build again. Well, we've done that 5 times. I think it's quite clear, the concept, and you do that all the time, continuously. Facebook, at this point, I think they have like 10,000 people. 10,000 people. 10,000 experiments at the same time around the whole world.
Wow. Doing
different specific experiments to test, different features, slight details. If the like button is a bit more to the left, people will like better. If I put your updates before the, how do I place the updates depending on your friends list? So many other things that continuously they are building, measure, learning, building, measure, learning. So that's the whole loop of Lean Startup. Now, you do that not just with your product, as we've seen, but also with your business model. The business model is once again, as we've discussed, the part of the product itself. So let's say that we have a business model that is Wasteify, that charges €4 per week, that takes care of your waste and gives you money for whatever they can make, and sends you good and sells that data of your consuming habits to third-party companies. Not your actual email, it's anonymous data, but it's big data. So that will, they will be able to have millions of data and information about, all the things you throw. Not just you, but the millions of people that are your clients. So that is a good information for many companies that might want to do something, as we were discussing with Facebook. So they say, I want to send diapers to people that are in this cluster, which is people that just threw a huge side box of diapers, and they have a high income in cities and whatever. Then you can charge this advertiser, the diapers.com company, to actually send that campaign, and people will be happy apparently to receive that, because we became to know that they just threw this huge last bag of diapers, so you might as well, you probably run out of diapers. It might not be the best example, because if you actually throw it away, it means you actually bought a new one. Okay, you don't survive with with no diapers for one day. But the kind of things I'm talking about. That you can know more about the people from companies are starting to learn from what you buy, but people will probably learn even more from what you throw away. Okay, so that leaves a very good opportunity. So maybe in the end, the business model will be, hey, you know what? I'm not going to charge you anything. Just allow me to send you offers and take this hassle from me. And that's it. Fair enough. I don't pay. I receive emails. You make money with those emails, and as long as you don't spam me, and I don't get offers that are not suited to me. So that's one business model. Okay, let's say that is not working. That we've doing that for a few times, and then we made what it's called iterations. Okay, we're going to see that in this is the MVP slide that we've seen. The lean canvas approach that we're going to see now. This is the actual parts of the lean canvas and the engines of growth. I was actually looking for the slide of the other slide, so I apologize. So anyway, basically you can iterate or you can pivot. These are the two main decisions you make as an entrepreneur in your own startup. Let's say you've trying to learn a lot, make decisions, and finally you get stuck because people are actually not buying, not even for free, your service. Okay, so then you have two options: either iterate, which is changing a slight part of your business model. Let's say a slight part is, instead of going to people like families, you go to singles. Okay, that's an iteration of the business model, because you change the customer segment, but it's it's a specific detail about the customer segment. But let's say that you decide that people in their homes, they don't care about that. That you're going to go to a B2B business model. That it's companies that are more concerned about their waste. So you're going to try and see if going to 10 small business SMEs and 10 corporations, that will be your experiment. You will go with the same approach, but with a different value proposition. It's like, I will take care of every waste of your company, and I will classify it, and I will just take the hassle away from you, and I will not charge you anything, because I will get whatever I make with the waste. So you go there and see what happens. Well, that's not an iteration. That's a pivot. A pivot is a main change on your business model. Okay, so that's very important to know, because sometimes if you have the agility to make this type of moves, then it means the difference between survival or death as entrepreneurs. So that's why being lean, being agile, being fast, making quick decisions, having low weight gives you the ability to make a decision like that, because you still have resources, you're still alive, and you can still make that choice without spending too much on it.
Álvaro,
Sure.
in these steps that you are talking about, which is the average of time in order to invest in
the average time, you mean before pivoting or iterating?
Yes.
Well, sometimes I've seen people that pivot in 48 hours, and actually it's not, I've seen it, sometimes it works, but for the most part, it's not an actual pivot. Pivot, it means that you need to do that for a certain time, a few weeks, few months, and then make a major shift. I've been to many hackathons and startup weekends, and say, wow, we've moved a lot along the way, because we we pivoted 3 times this weekend. It's like, no, you didn't pivot 3 times this weekend. You just, you run 3 different experiments this weekend. But a pivot means, changing your real shift of, direction. So to give you a specific answer, it would be impossible because each company is different.
Normal.
But the order of magnitude to me is about months more than years or weeks, or even days, of course. So it's a matter of months. Let me give you an example. I have this company that is called Food in the Box, and we send meal kits to houses so people can cook those kits. And what at the beginning, I just went to a B2C business model. I want to, I wanted to get the final client spending money on Facebook ads and Google AdWords. And that was so expensive. I had to spend 50 euros for every new customer. So I didn't think it was a good model because I was just making, 20 euros on average as a gross margin per customer per order. So I was losing money. I was having a good idea with a bad business model. So that's why it's very important to have this business model. And one day we say, okay, but what if instead of getting to the client ourselves, who is more interested to have recipes than even ourselves? And we thought, okay, the food brands, Campo Frio or Heinz or Campbell Soup or whatever. They really want their marketing when they want to launch a new product. They don't just send the product to influencers and say, hey, try my new, ketchup. You don't do so, if you want them to try your product, you need to give them ideas to do with this ketchup, to actually send them recipes, ideas. If you go to any food brand's website, you will see recipes as part of the main content of that food product. Okay, they have chefs inside the company that develop recipes. What is the problem with those recipes? That no one actually makes those recipes because, first of all, they don't have the consistency of a real recipe because they normally cut and paste from their marketing departments. Second, okay, I'm a user and you send me a great idea to to cook something with this ketchup, but then I have to go to the supermarket, buy these specific ingredients that you're telling me, cook those ingredients. Maybe I will just buy another product because I'm in the supermarket, so I will just find whatever product, whatever ketchup is fine. I don't need your brand to actually use this recipe that you get me. So there's no consistency in the experience. And even if let's say I use your brand with other products, but the recipe is not well done, so my overall experience will not be good enough. As a client, as an influencer, it's just impossible. You just don't do it. Okay, you just say that this ketchup is good and that's it, but it's not creating value. So what we realize is that, hey, let's become a meal kit company, first for brands and then to consumers. And let's pivot from a B2C company to a B2B2C company. So what we do now is we go to food brands and say, hey, let's create a website of your brand. We will create recipes with your product and people will be able to go to this website and actually click and pay or get for free if you're promoting those recipes. And they will get a box with the ingredients at the right size with your product and nothing will be missing. So the overall experience will be great and you will be able to promote your product. Now you are the one with millions of euros of budget and I'm the one with thousands of euros of budget. So who is going to acquire the customers better than you, than me? Well, actually, each food brand. So now we change the whole concept to like a business-to-business company, and the company is going well. And then those companies, those brands, since they're promoting, let's say for example, our last campaign was Campo Frio. They wanted to launch a new product for vegetarians, and they bought 1,000 boxes from us. No, this time it was 500 boxes from us. So they would actually send them to journalists, influencers, or doing contests on social media, so they would promote the new product. Well, That's 500 people that actually know our product, that they tweeted about our product, and they pay for it. And actually pay us for the boxes and for the recipes. So you get paid to get clients, basically. And you see how important it is. I wanted to use this real example because it's very important to understand the difference between product and idea and business model. How a business model changed everything. Then we say, okay, yeah, it's working well, but we need also to go to the mass market. So we partner with Carrefour. And now we are launching at the Carrefour markets with those meal kits. Because, we're not making money with those meal kits because the margins are very low when you talk to this type of companies. But it's okay. We can be in thousands of places at the same time all around the country and having free publicity that people normally would pay millions of euros for advertisement, and they are actually doing the advertisement for us because we can be on every shelf of the whole country. And then they will open the box, they will buy it, and then they will go to our website. So once again, you need to be and to use your brains, not your money, because it pays off, really. And it's all about lean startup. It's all about saying, okay, what if? Just what if? Always in what if or why not? Then you think, okay, what if? Let's design the experiment for the what if. Let's measure the results of the what if and let's learn the conclusions about that what if. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. We've done so many things that didn't work. Like, for example, we thought that, same with brands, the bloggers would actually, there are thousands of recipes in their blogs, and food bloggers are not actually making money because they get some money from Google or advertisers, but it really doesn't even cover the server costs. Making money with a blog is really complicated. So we thought, okay, what if we allow those bloggers to develop recipes with us, and they can have those recipes that they're actually showing to their audience, that are people willing to cook actually, if we make them clickable and we go on a revenue share basis. So for every recipe that I sell through your blog, I give you money, and you basically create content and you can sell it. And we're doing that, we're still doing it, but it was a failure because you needed to have hundreds of thousands of visits in order to actually make interesting sales so that the blogger would actually make money. It created value for their audience, but not real money. So we built a whole strategy, and then we saw that the numbers were not actually as good as we expected. Okay, so that's another example of a bad experience with iteration and pivoting. So let me just talk about this lean canvas aspect of the business model. We probably all know about this business model canvas because you've seen it on your classes, and it's a way to visualize a business model of a company that is already existing. Now this guy named Asmaura, he actually wrote a book, very good book, that is called Running Lean, that I recommend you. And basically he said, well, let's make a little change to business model canvas and let's create this lean canvas for new startups. And instead of doing the traditional fields, let's start with the problem. Because established companies, they don't need to actually state the problem because they're not validating anything. It's already validated. So business model canvas doesn't need to have the problem within, but lean companies, new companies, they actually need to know and define and state the right problem. Then you say, okay, this problem, you follow the number 2. You just have to do it in order, 1, 2, and then go to the 3rd, 4th, and so on. What are the right customer segments? Okay, that's also doing it in the business model canvas, but with a small difference. That apart from the customer, you need to define who do you think is going to be your early adopter, not just your customer segment, because this Wastify idea that I just mentioned, well, maybe customer segments could be families, married couples, anyone. But who is going to be my early adopter? The person that will be willing to buy my product, more eager because they need this product more, or they're just more open to it, or you're just solving the problem that they have in a better way than other solutions. Basically, your first customers. So let's say that for Wastify, I think that my first customers will be members of an NGO. That would be my hypothesis, and I will run the experiment to create a Facebook ads campaign on people that did like on Greenpeace. Because there are people that are very much motivated about recycling. Mm-hmm. So that they would be willing to pay if someone took the hassle of actually, having to go outside and throw the bags on different dumps and separate everything they do, So that would be my early adopter. And then I would just go for my unique value proposition, and then I just focus on the solution. The channels are underestimated, even in the business model canvas. The channel to me is one of the main issues that people overlook when they start the company, and are the most successful drivers of growth, especially when you start. Because you're so focused on your product, even sometimes on your customer, that you don't realize the value of the actual person or company that will deliver your product to your customer. And it might seem obvious, but it's not. It's not obvious. People think that just investing on Facebook ads will give you visits and then they will bring you clients. And that's one way to look at it. But let me tell you, the average CPA, cost per acquisition, of a new client for an e-commerce site is between 30 and 60 euros. So you need to make a margin of 67 euros on your product through the whole life of the client in order to make it profitable. If instead of doing so, you just use Amazon, you put your product on Amazon, even without building a website, just put your product on Amazon, and you will be reachable for free to so many other places, and without even having to pay money. That's one distribution channel. People often ask me, hey, I want to start this website, that is an e-commerce site. Well, careful with e-commerce. It's good, but it's not as good as it seems. For what I just said, people underestimate the cost of acquisition. It's very, very high, really high. Just consider this in mind. Okay, I will give you the main KPIs. You need to spend around 15 cents, 20 cents per visit. You will have an average of 0.5 or 1.2% of the people that will visit your site will actually buy in your site. So let's say that 1 every 100 people just make a sale. 1 every 100 people, if you spend 20 cents per person to find your website, that means that you have 20 euros to spend 20 euros on that person to become your client. And that's like a very good ratio. Normally, it's not that easy. So, and that's just the starting point, because then you need to increase other costs, marketing costs, and others that will increase your customer acquisition cost to 30 to 60 on an average for like selling, keyboards on the internet. Of course, there's a difference. I created companies that had, like a 500 euros of customer acquisition cost, but it was a luxury travel agency online. So, if you wanted to make a person spend 4,000 euros on your website doing like a personalized trip to Maldives, you're not going to spend 20 euros on acquiring that customer. But for the most part, that's the average. So instead of doing so, just find workarounds. Find people that are willing to do so, because they have the audience. They have the people. You just have to give them the right incentive. A great example of that is Hawkers. Hawkers now spends millions of euros on Facebook. Of course, they became popular actually because of that. But they also found ways to say, okay, they reach an agreement with Banco BBVA and say, you just give a pair of glasses to a new client and you pay us €1 for each client, because the glasses are for them to manufacture was just €1. The perceived value was €30. So, or I don't know how a pair of glasses, but around €30. So the condition to that was that BBVA, in each and every campaign, in any street, any bus, any TV, they would say, we give you a pair of hawkers. So imagine the advertisement that they saved, with, just by selling their glasses to a huge bank at the cost price. Even I'm sure they made money, but even at a cost price, they paid for the whole advertisement campaign. So that's a channel, So when you think of channels, don't go for the first derivative. Just try to think farther. Be smart. So once again, just take into account these elements of the value proposition and take into account the cost structure and the revenue streams. Most investors, we will see how to raise money in other classes, but most investors, they will ask you specifically to two questions. What is the problem you're solving, and what are the revenue streams? The problem you're solving means that, you're a startup, so I don't really care your product right now, because, I'm talking about early stage companies, okay? Because in the end, if you're really solving a problem, if there is a real problem that you're trying to solve with a big market, that means that if you have the right team, you eventually will find the solution. Mm-hmm. So that's a difference, instead of focusing on the product, which it's not as important. So that's the first question they will ask. Second question is, what are your revenue streams? What is your monetization model? How are you going to make money? How are you going to make me rich? So revenue streams, first thing, just don't have too many, because at the beginning, when you start having this lean canvas or business model canvas, you start thinking of all the ways you could be making money, and advertisement and email marketing, and I will sell the product, and I will do. No, just keep it simple. Just have 1, 2 at the most, and 3 as an exception, ways to get money. Then in the future you will see, but keep it simple, because investors don't like complex business models. They like simple business models. They need to understand and see hundreds of business models every year. So just keep it simple, because if you try to monetize things in too many ways, it's either because you don't have enough demand, or your product is not good enough, or you're just a very unfocused entrepreneur. Okay, so that would be the channels that will not ask you, but they're starting to ask, because they know how important it is. Okay, and the cost structure, well, they don't care too much. Of course they know it's important, but they just know that you will try to keep it as low as possible, and they will need to know your burn rate, how much money are you burning every month. With that, so that with their money, what will be the runway? How much time, how long will your company will survive at this burn rate? Because in the end, if we think about it, a startup is, as we mentioned in the previous classes, is a small organization, temporary. In the future, it will not be a startup, it will be a mature company. Temporary, very and highly scalable, thanks to technology. That's why we always associate startups to technology, because it's the scale factor. Otherwise you cannot scale it. You can, but it's complicated. And the last part is with high levels of uncertainty, in constant search of their business model. So that constant search of the business model is what the money is for at the early stages. They're giving you money to find your business model. So they don't expect you to have an already stable business model, but at least just have a very low burn rate, so you will have more time to find that business model. So the more experiments you run, and the more you know about your company and what works and what doesn't, you can get to the same point in 1 year or in 3 months. So that's why it's all about timing. Because at the same time you're trying to run these experiments, there will be 100 other companies trying to do the same thing with probably more money and more people, better teams at the beginning. So you need to move fast. So I think we're getting reaching the end. So basically, as talking fast, moving fast means applying this principle from the US as well that says fail fast, succeed faster. They embrace in failure because they know that the farther they go, the more cycles they have, the better. Since Eric Ries, the creator of Lean Startup methodology, he said that the unit of growth of a company, of a startup, it was not the money, it was what he called the validated learning. The more validated learning you have in your company, the more assets you have within yourself to make the right decisions, and that is what really matters. I'm just gonna quickly go through these engines of growth so that we get the whole picture of Lean Startup. Let's say that we understood now the problem, the solution. We created an MVP, a minimum viable product. We run experiments. We did this build, measure, learn loop a few times. We did this lean canvas so that we started to make some changes and different hypotheses. We try with this segment, with this other segment, with this channel, with this other channel. We make this on a revenue stream. Revenue streams, it's so, imagine, for example, this morning, just another example how that makes a difference. I'm not going to say the brand, okay, but there's a huge brand that sells kitchen robots, okay, that you can, like 1,100 euros kitchen robots. They're huge, and the problem is, it's an expensive robot. No, I don't know how many of you are willing to spend that money on a kitchen robot. I don't know if you have a kitchen robot.
Yes.
Okay.
But it was a present of my wedding.
Yeah, normally is that. That's the problem they are having. Their clients used to be, the clients that get that as a gift because, normally their parents or someone says, okay, now you're gonna have to cook on your own. So now you have to, at least I'm just gonna keep it easy for you, right? So this company said, okay, I'm solving half of the problem, but in the end, people almost never use this robot because they always do either the gazpacho, the lemonade, or the pizza, and
yes,
2 more things, and that's it, right? because in the end, it's solving halfway. It's solving the part of the cooking part, but it's not solving the planning, on the grocery, and the waste of the food. It's just not solving it. So what do? You partner with them.
Yes.
And say, okay, so if you could buy, even if from this robot, you could choose the recipe that is already programmed and just click one button, and those recipes can be it's integrated in your bank account, it's integrated in everything, so it's one click away, and you get the next day the recipes at your place. Would that be convenient for you?
No, it's wonderful.
So
it's
now,
wonderful.
so the problem is, okay, that's a good partnership because you get a huge community of people, of hundreds of thousands of people that already have this robot. But the problem is it's still very expensive.
Yes.
So what is the proposal that we did to them? It's like, okay, how much is this phone? This is an iPhone, okay? I think it's around 800. No, even more. 800, yeah, I think it's 800 euros. People normally just don't go to a store and spend 800 euros. It's not the way I do it. I just go to Vodafone, which is my phone company, and they say, okay, it's like, how much are you willing to pay? Okay, yeah, 33 euros per month on my monthly receipt. Am I willing to pay that for 24 months? Why not? 33 euros. It's nothing for such a good phone. So we are doing the same thing. It's like, what if you subscribe and you do the same thing? You have your food as a service business model. You get every week, you get like 3 to 5 recipes that are completely adapted to you, to your family members, to your taste. Like if it was Netflix type of approach, you get it every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Okay, or 9 p.m. But if you hire or you get this subscription, you pay 35 euros per month more, and you can get this kitchen robot. And each and every recipe will be able to be cooked with this kitchen robot, so it will even save you even more time. So it will be even healthier and more convenient.
It's running this.
We're negotiating it,
Ah.
but they're very interesting. So
Tell me when you start.
I will. So this is a good example on how one product that it was transactional, that you needed to sell 1,200 euros hardware to someone on the internet with a product. Instead of that, you're selling a whole service, a whole experience, and you're solving a whole problem. The planning, buying groceries, cooking, wasting, all in the same, subscription business model. So that's one example of how the business model can make such an incredible difference. Okay. So these are the three engines of growth, how you can grow your company: the sticky, the viral, and the paid. The sticky, basically, you can have, a lot of examples, but basically, just think that it's very important to have this subscription model type that I just mentioned. Okay, so maybe it's a high acquisition cost, but then you can have like permanent income. Okay, the viral is a very, very important but difficult to find growth model. The best example, it's Facebook, Hotmail, WhatsApp. Basically, you don't have to invest any money whatsoever on acquiring customers, or not much money on acquiring customers, because each and every customer gets you between 3 to 8 or 12 new customers. You remember Dropbox when you started, or Gmail? Like, send this to 6 people and they will get 1 gigabyte for free. Well, that's a viral growth model. So when you think about your company, think about the product, think about the business model, but on top of the business model, think about your growth model, your engine of growth, your growth engine, let's call it again. And think about whether it's a sticky, whether it's viral, or it's paid. Paid is basically this e-commerce conventional business model where you have cost per acquisition and customers' lifetime value, which is the money that you will make for the whole life of the client. Okay. Basically, this paid model is spending money on Facebook ads, spending money on Google AdWords, or basically PPC, what it's called. But sometimes you need, that business model works, and it's very successful. Just don't always go to that one because it's like the most, evident. Just try to see if your product could actually grow virally. Airbnb had a mix, but it grew viral for a long time with their member get member strategy of give 20 people to a friend to try Airbnb, and we'll give you 20 people for you to use and enjoy Airbnb. That strategy, it was a growth hack, as they called. It was an experiment. It worked so well that they exploded as a company. So they had to create a whole growth team based on things to grow more viral and more viral and more viral. We will discuss engines of growth in depth, and we will see in the next classes how to grow our company, because we've done from the purpose, the why, the how, the team, the methodologies, the customers. We've seen the product, the lean startup. We've seen the loops on how to experiment and build, measure, learn, how to pivot, how to iterate, how to create a business model on top, then how to create a growth engine to reach product market fit. Okay, but in the next classes we will see how to, once we have this good product, how to start growing on users and customers, how to make it grow, how to make money out of it, and then we will see how to do this fundraising, how to get money from investors to help us find our business model as smart startups that we are. So I hope it was interesting for most of you. And you can reach me at Emprender Cuesta as my Twitter account. If you need any help, any resources or whatever, just let me know. And hope to see you next time.
Thank you very much, Álvaro.
Thank you.
It has been very interesting.
Thanks.
At this point, we close the meeting. Thank you very much for the participation and your contributions. In the next few days, we will send you an email with a link so they can see the session again and another to download the presentation. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Good afternoon.